Hi, in this video we're going to be having a look at this KS Jive DAB radio or digital audio broadcast. So a viewer called Maurice sent me this, and what he said was he did try powering it up but it wouldn't turn on and there was no current being drawn. So thanks for sending this in, Maurice. So I think the first thing we'll do is we'll try popping some batteries in. We'll just see if it does do anything. We'll connect it up with the bench power supply as well, and then we'll take it from there. Right, let's pop some batteries in. Right, well, it's not doing anything on batteries. So let's try it on the bench power supply. Let's get these batteries back out. So according to the bottom here, it needs a power supply of 7.5 volts, and it looks like the original power supply is rated at 2 amp. So I'll set the bench power supply accordingly. There we go, 7.53. And it does indeed seem completely dead. Right, let's see how we get into it then. So let's try taking this panel off first, I think. And that doesn't really reveal a great deal. We've got an on-off switch there. We could just check the on-off switch. Let's just do that. You never know, it might just be something like the on-off switch. So let's go into continuity. Well, the on-off switch seems to work okay. Right, let's take this battery compartment out, see if that gives us any access to anything. Oh, there's a wire off there. I wonder if it's just a simple wire came off. Although that would stop it from working on the batteries, but it still should still work on the mains power supply. Let's just solder that back on first. You never know, might be a quick fix this one. Right, I'd best try the batteries again then, just to be sure. So, still not switching on. Right, let's get this battery compartment out again. Let's see if we can see anything obvious. Well, I can see the main board down there. Let's just zoom in on that. And I guess that connector there is for the speakers, because it looks like we've got a yellow wire. Goes over to the speaker here and a red one going to that one there. So I guess those are the speaker wires. So one of these must be the power. Let's just see if we can trace out what goes to where here. So it looks like the mains power comes in on this board here, but it looks like it also goes to the battery compartment. Or the switch does. Ah, that'll be why it's a dual switch. So one will be switching mains power and one will be switching the battery. Right, okay, makes sense now. So it looks like these two wires go to the bench power supply. So let's plug the bench power supply back into here and let's see if we get power on that connector. 200 volts DC. Let's try and get the meter probes on there and there. So we've got 7.5 going to the connector here. Just plug that back in. So I guess the problem is on the main board here. Like I said, this might not be repairable, but we shall have a go. So how does this board come out? I can see a number of screws down there. It's going to be awkward to get the screwdriver in here. So I'm just wondering whether this board comes out from the top perhaps. Let's pop this back in here for now. And let's see if we can figure out how this top part comes off. Now I'm not sure whether this whole panel comes out, whether that's glued in, or whether this little bezel comes off and then there may be screws or something perhaps underneath. Well, I can get a spudging tool under here. That doesn't seem to want to move. Right, I'm just going to pause the video a moment and see if I can figure out how this comes apart. One moment please. So I managed to use a hairdryer to soften the glue that was gluing this bezel down, and it looks like that reveals 4 screws underneath here. So let's get those out. Right, let's see if this panel wants to come out now then. And we're stuck on the wires and things, but at least that's free now. Just wondering if I can feed this panel and try and get it out of this top part here maybe. Just unplug these cables a moment. Right, might be a little bit easier to work on now. Let's plug these cables back in. Right, let's have a look over this board a little bit. So it looks like we might have a voltage regulator here. I'll just see if I can zoom down a little bit more. Yes. So we've got a 3 volt regulator, or 3.3. That looks like it's the audio amplifier. So it goes to the speakers here, those 2 traces. That resistor looks a bit odd. Actually, it looks like that's been either replaced or put in upside down or something, that. Yeah, that looks like the bottom side of the resistor, so somebody's put a resistor in there but upside down, and it looks like that's been soldered in after the fact. So I wonder if somebody else has had a look at this previously, or whether that's a modification from the factory. Let's just see if we get any resistance on that. I'm just curious. Let's try and get the meter in shot there. Yeah, 1.5k, so that's probably okay. Let's connect the bench power supply up. I just want to see if I get any voltage on this voltage regulator here. let's just double check we're getting power to the board here. If I go into volts DC. No. Now hold on. I've got a wire came off here now. Yes, that wire there's came off. Right. I've soldered that one back on now. And the quality of the wires aren't very good. Just feed that back through here. Right, that's soldered back on. Right, let's see if we can get power there now. Right, we've got 7.5 there. Do we get anything on this voltage regulator? So that should be the input here. I'm not getting anything. So it looks like this board here is actually the brains of the radio. And the receiver here, so that part's the receiving circuit, I would think, and this part's like the main microcontroller and flash memory that actually makes the display and everything work. This part here is the amplifier. We've got a voltage regulator, and then it looks like the power comes in around about here. So we've got a few 0 ohm resistors as well. So what I might do, because I can't really zoom in anymore with the camera, is get this underneath the microscope so we can have a bit better look at it. So I'll hook the microscope up and we'll have a look at it under the microscope. Right, got it under the microscope. There's the voltage regulator there, and I've disconnected the little CPU board there. It was just easier instead of having the antenna cable restricting us. So there's the audio amplifier, which is a TDA7266P. So it looks like the power comes into the regulator from this smoother cap here. It looks like we've got a protection diode here. But what's this I can see? Let's just zoom down a little bit on that. So it looks like there's a track blasted from here going to this capacitor here, and it looks like going to the power input. So whether or not there's any other damage being caused to this. Normally when you see things like that, it's like there's a high voltage being applied. There's something like mains or something. Let's see if this diode's still intact or if that's shorted. I'll just zoom back out a little bit. So let's just go on to diode check. The diode actually seems okay. So it might just be a case of repairing this track here. Fingers crossed. I'm going to have to see if I can get this board out of here, because I'm probably going to have to remove this capacitor. Either that, or I might be to jumper a wire on the other side of the board. I'm still going to have to take the board out in any case. but at least we've seen something. But there may be more damage further down the line. Right, let's get this board out then. Might actually leave that screw in, because I think that one and that one were for the display. Now, why don't you want to come out? Oh, there we go. I'm just going to pop a screw back in here just to hold this display in place. So it might just be to jumper a wire. Let's just zoom down a little bit. So we might just be able to jumper a wire from here to here. And then I would have thought it goes from here to here. Because that's ground and that's ground. So yeah, so if we jump a wire from there to there and from there to there, and then we can see what it does after that. Right, I shall go and get some wire. I'm just going to tin up these pads first. Ah, that's what the diode's for. That's the battery input. So it's not a protection diode, it actually goes to the battery. It's to stop the mains, or the mains adapter feeding back and charging the batteries up. So I've just prepared a little bit of wire here. Right, I think that should do. Might just put a little bit extra solder on this bit. So what I might do is just hook the bench power supply up and we'll just see if we get 3 volts on that voltage regulator now. Right, I'm just going to switch it on now. And it's drawn 1/4 amp. Which I wouldn't have thought it should be drawn 1/4 amp. Now we're getting 6 volts on that regulator. So that's not right. Just going to grab the thermal camera a moment. Well, I've just switched it back on there. And it looks like that audio amplifier chip is getting hot. Yeah, that doesn't look right. So it looks like the audio amplifier chip's fried. I don't like the way that I'm getting not 3.3 out of there. So this one might not be actually repairable. It looks like there's been a high voltage blasted into this. And it looks like it's potentially took out this voltage regulator, the amplifier, and probably the main control board here. I just want to quickly try this again. I just want to double check this voltage regulator. This isn't looking very good. Yeah, so that's the input. And like I say, we shouldn't be getting nearly 7 volts on the output of that. So I don't know whether it's worth going any further forward with this one or not. What I might do is see if I've got another voltage regulator, and then we'll see if we get anything on the display. Right, I think that's probably going to be the only thing we can really try. And then at least we might see if the display board is actually working, or the main CPU part of it. And if that's working, then we might be to still recover this one. But it looks like it's going to need a new audio amplifier chip at the minimum, and a new voltage regulator. Right, I'm just going to put a little bit of flux on this voltage regulator first. I'm just going to use some low melt solder to remove it. Let's put a bit on the back here. Right, that's the old one off. I'm just going to use a bit of solder wick now just to remove the old solder and that. Right, let's see if we get 3.3 volts out of there now then. Yes. Yeah, so we've got 7.5 in and 3.3 out. Right, where's this display board then? I'll just switch it off for a moment. Let's switch it off from the power supply. Let's see if this starts heating up, which I've got a feeling it's going to, but you never know. Because if that voltage regulator's kicking out 7 volts or whatever, it's probably not good. Well, it's still completely dead. I mean, nothing seems to be heating up on that board. I've just got the thermal camera on there. Ah, hold on. It wasn't plugged in correctly. Now it is. Right, let's see what it does now then. Oh. Looks like there might be hope for this one after all. Right, I'll just switch it back off a moment. I'm just going to hook the audio amp up just to see what it does. I don't think it should be getting to 50 degrees without any load on it though. Well, I've just been having a look online to see if I can get a replacement audio amplifier chip, and it seems that the TDA7266P here is no longer manufactured and it's obsolete. So I've had a look on Aliexpress and there are some available on there. Now whether or not they're copies or something like that remains to be seen. So I've ordered one, so when it arrives we'll try replacing it and we'll see what happens. So it's been about a week and the new part has arrived. However, I'm not convinced that it's genuine, and I'll show you why. So I've removed the old chip, which is just here, and I'll get the new chip and the old one. We'll put them side by side under the microscope. So this is the new chip here, and if you look at the state of it, just the oxidization on it and stuff. I'll just refocus the microscope there. Look at the state of the pins. That's the back of the chip. And this is the front of it, and you can see it's all oxidized, and there's even some kind of weird sort of texture going on over here as well. And I'll bring in the original chip that I've just removed. And we'll just put them side by side. So the first thing I've noticed is the logo here seems a lot more pronounced on the original chip. And if we look at the spacing on the letters here, compared to the spacing here, and the logo, the lines on it, we've got 2 lines across the top that goes down, and there's only 1 line on this one. So I have my reservations. So let's just get the test meter on it, because I've got the data sheet here. I just want to check to see if this is even anywhere near the correct chip. So according to the data sheet, these 2 pins here are power ground. So I'll just go on resistance, so they're both the same pin. And we've got open circuit between those 2. Even though they're both supposed to be the same, let's try it on the original chip. And I've got about 23 ohms there. So if I go between this pin and the last pin, let's say, I'm sure that's something to stick these down with really, but never mind. We've got a short of 0 ohms between there and there. And on the original chip, we have open circuit. And this last pin here is supposed to be no connect. So we haven't got any connection between the first pin and the last pin on that chip. But we have on this chip of 0 ohms. So I'm pretty sure that this chip is fake. Or it's not even the correct chip and it's been rebadged. I mean, it could be that this chip's been damaged and blown open circuit, but I'm not really convinced. So I think it's going to be a miracle if this chip actually works. So I need to try and clean it off first before I even attempt to fit it, because look at the state of it. I mean, you can see all the corrosion on the legs here. It's just like... And I've had a chip that arrived in a similar condition before, and that turned out to be fake as well. I think it was for a different radio quite some time ago. I mean, we could try some other pins. Let's try going between the centre bit. I'll just check that I've got those around the same way, because there's a dot there, so... Well, I've got 576 ohms there. And that was round about here, we had a short. But on this chip, it's almost every pin's 576 ohms. So what I'll do, I'll clean this up, we'll try fitting it and we'll see what happens. And then, actually tell you what I might do, I might x-ray both of these. We'll just see what happens if we x-ray them, and we'll see if we can see any differences with the x-ray machine. Yeah, that's an idea, let's do that. Right, I've got the 2 chips on the plate there, so I'll just pop that into the x-ray machine. I'll just close the door. And those look like completely different chips. So this is the original on the left, this one here. And this is the chip I've received from Aliexpress. And if we notice, those 3 pins are joined together, those 3 pins are joined together. So this looks, I don't know what it is, some kind of output driver maybe? But it's definitely not the same as that chip. I mean, you can actually see a little bit of the die on that one. Just vaguely there. And on this one it looks like it's the whole part inside. And you can see here where it's connected from that pin to that pin, and on this one it isn't. I just thought I'd have a play around with the contrast a little bit, just to see if we could get a little bit better images there. And you can definitely see the amplifier chip has got the die in the centre here. And this one, you can see it looks like the whole actual chip is just here. So I think this looks like some kind of output driver or something, maybe like a stepper motor driver, possibly. They're having 4 big outputs, I don't know, but something like that. It's definitely not the same chip as this though. No way. So I think I need to open a claim with Aliexpress on this one. But it still leaves her in a predicament with repairing this radio. So those are the 2 transistors that I removed from the Sony Explode amplifier that I just looked at. And weirdly enough, this is the one that was actually blown. You can see there's a little tiny white dot there. So those 2 are the 718s. That's the one that I received from China, and that's the original one. And if we notice, the originals have got a slightly different shape at the bottom. It's more of an angle there, where the ones I got from China have got more like a rounded, I think that's the collector there, they've got more like a rounded shape at the bottom, where these ones are more angled. And that one, I mean, it could be that those legs are higher up than this bit, but it almost looks like that one's touching. So I just thought you might find that a little bit interesting. Now we know what this chip looks like inside. If we go across, let's say, that pin and that pin and that pin, we can see all of those 3 are joined together like it showed in the X-ray. Same with those 3. Same with those 3. Same with those 3. So definitely 100% fake. So I'll not be buying from that seller again. So I had a bit of a crazy idea. Because I've got this Cavera Air CNC machine now, I was wondering if we can set the machine up so it'll slowly take a pass of these ICs here and just mill a little bit of it down at a time, because it can mill down to 0.02mm accuracy with this. So I've set it to go down 0.05mm at a time, and we'll see if we can skim the top off these chips, and we'll see exactly what's inside of them. I just thought that might be a bit interesting. So the machine's just auto leveling itself. It's just working out the height of the probe there, and then it'll probe the chip just to work out the height of the chip. And it'll show us what area it's actually going to mill. That looks fine. And now it's actually going to probe the chip just to work out the height of it. Right, I'll swap the bit over and then we'll start milling it. Right, you've never seen anybody decap an IC with a CNC machine before. Right, we'll come back when it's a bit further on. Well, I'm not sure how well that turned out, so we'll get it under the microscope and we'll have a look. So we're nearly down to the die. You can see the bond wires here. But I didn't want to go much further the way I was going, because in case this bottom bit came detached from the PCB and it ended up getting smashed or whatever. So I might alter the configuration of the CNC slightly, just to try and do this middle part here and leave the legs intact. So we'll try milling out just this sort of area here, and we'll see how that gets on. Right, we'll try this again. Wow, look at this. So this is the fake IC. You can see where the bond wires went to, those 3 little dots there. Maybe to zoom in a bit more with this actually. Looks like there's some logic or something there. And this just looks like a big transistor or something here, or a big MOSFET. So there's 4 of those. And if we go down to here, this is the original amplifier IC. It mustn't have been quite level there. I'll just try a little bit IP on that, just see if it'll bring it out a bit more. So you can see there where all the bond wires went to that one. So this is the amplifier, and that's the size of the die on that one. And then this is the fake chip. And you can see it's just totally different inside. I mean, I know we've already seen it with the X-ray machine, but I think it's quite cool that we can actually see it in real life as well. I think that's pretty amazing. I don't know what you think. Leave it in the comments below. I'll be interested to know what you guys think of all this. Well, I know we still haven't fixed the radio yet, but let's see what we can come up with to do that. Well, I was curious to see if we could find out what this chip was that they actually sent us from Aliexpress. So I asked Google AI what package the TD-7266P comes in, and it said it was a Power SSO24. So then I asked what chip comes in that package, which has got the following pins connected, and it said a VNI 4140K. So I pulled up the data sheet for that, but the bottom pin number 12, I think it was no connection. So I thought, well, that's not it, because pins 1 and 12 are connected together. So then I asked what chip is similar but has pins 1 and 12 connected together, and it came up with this one here. So if I bring the data sheet up for that, and what it is, it's a quad channel high side driver with analog current sense for automotive applications. We'll just scroll down a little bit here. It gives us a block diagram of the chip, but then it gives us our pinouts. So if we look here, we've got VCC on the top and bottom pins here, so pin 1 and pin 12. And then we've got the top 3 pins on the right connected together, which is output 1, then the next 3 pins is output 2. So I'm pretty sure that this is the chip that they've actually sent us. So it's one of these chips that's been rebadged. Right, back to this radio then. So it's been a few days since I've looked at this, and what I'd done, I'd bought a replacement amplifier, because what my plan had been was to take the signals from where it used to go to this amplifier, feed it into this one, and then route the speaker connections back to this terminal here. And the only problem I would have had would have been the 5-volt supply, because from the batteries I think we've got about 7.5 there, so I'd have to drop it a couple of volts, which I could have used a voltage regulator or something for. So, but then I had a search around the internet a little bit more, and on the Mouser site I managed to find a 7266P 13TR. Now I wasn't sure if it was the same chip or not. Now they only had about 6 or 10 of these left. There wasn't actually that many of those left before they're out of stock. So the TR just means tape reel, and it's on I think it's a 13-inch tape reel. So it's actually the same part. But I didn't realise that Mouse actually had these in. So hopefully this is a proper part and not a copy, which I would have thought would be a proper one. That's a reputable supplier. So I don't know whether just to x-ray this one just for the giggles factor. So I might do that. I'll shove it in the x-ray machine and we'll just see if it's a legitimate part, which I would have thought 99% is going to be. So let's x-ray it. So as we can see, that looks better. We've got the first pin there, that's just connected to the actual base of the chip. Looks like we've got one connection here, one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, and then just a few here. So yeah, that looks more like as expected. If I just adjust the contrast here, one thing I did notice though is the actual die in this chip seems a lot bigger than the other one. You might just be able to make it out there, but the actual die there's more here. Whereas on the original chip it was more up here, so... Right, let's get this fitted then and then see if we can get this radio working. Right, so what I've done is I've retinned the pads here in preparation. And one of the other things that I discovered as well, it may just be to see here, is the track that went to this capacitor also went to this transistor here. And that was also blowing the track there, so I've soldered a bit of wire from here just to that leg there. That's another little thing that I did there. So let's get this IC. I'll just get it in line. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to heat it up from the bottom of the board. And hopefully it should just melt into place. Right, I think that should do for that. I've just refitted the display, so I just need to solder that up now. What I might do is just screw these parts back in for now. Stop them from flopping around, and then just screw the top back in, because we know how it comes apart now. We don't actually need to be into here anymore. That might be a thought. I think one thing I'm going to have to try and do is line this antenna back up, because it was screwed in with a screw, and I think it's also soldered onto this back plane on that bit there, so I'll have to see if I can figure out how to do that. So we can get this screw in first. Right, that's that bit done. There might just be enough just to solder that wire back on. Right, hopefully we can feed the rest of these wires through the top now. Now I think I might have a couple of screws missing here. Let's see if I can find those other screws. I think that's them. Actually, that might be one of them. Right, the power one is here. Right, I'll grab some batteries. Right then, what do we think? I think it's going to work. Well, we've got some sound. Now the only problem I've got here is the radio reception around here isn't very good at all. So what I might have to do is take this up the top of the drive to actually be able to pick any radio up. So we'll do that and we'll see if we can pick up some radio. Right, I'm at the top of the driveway. Sun's just starting to set there. You may be able to see a couple of the horses there in the distance. So I've just tuned this radio in.
Financial services. Investment scams, crypto scams, impersonation scams.
So this is the DAB, and if we just try it on FM, I think, which is somewhere around here. How do I get mode? Sorry, FM. There we go. So this is the FM radio there now. And we'll go back to DAB mode.
The beach with up to £400 off package holidays.
So that's it, all working. So nice little repair on that one, I think. So I think I'll leave you with a bit of scenery before I disappear off. Right then, if you enjoyed this video, please give it the big thumbs up. If you want to see more like it, please subscribe. Any comments or questions, please leave it in the comment section below. And as always, have a great day. Thanks for watching.